Hi, I'm Brian. Welcome to Autogefuhl and welcome to the new Peugeot 208. I can tell you that you can actually pick between 3 petrols and a diesel to start with. This clearly is the electric, and it's providing a lot more power than would realistically have been previously possible. What you're looking at right now is a 50 kilowatt hour battery, and it's hooked up to a 100 kilowatt electric motor. So if you want to compare that to its petrol and diesel brothers, you're looking at around about 134 horsepower. So that's a lot more powerful than you'd expect, and it's actually not far behind the 148 horsepower Nissan Leaf. So it should deliver you a pretty good bang for your buck. You can get this to within 80% from empty within just 20 minutes. Well, you've got to be able to find one of those stations first, but if you fit a charge station in your home, realistically you should be able to get a fully comfortable charge into this car in a lot less than a spell overnight. Let's take a look at the charge point. Obviously the intention here is to make it look as much like the petrol experience as possible. It's nicely hidden away here, and it's very straightforward and easy to access. Peugeot say that they went about this by going back to silhouettes. They wanted to make sure that the car had a presence, but that it wasn't too much of a different statement. You can see a lot of design elements in the front grille and the front shape of this 208, so to introduce a new element of style. I like this approach to the grille. It does have a unique feel, but it's not crazy and disproportionate to the whole shape of the front of the car. What I particularly think works well about this is you still can tell from a glance this is a 208. Look at the way these lights are now integrated into the front bumper and the bonnet. Everything here feels very carefully integrated. A trend in modern car design is to put the largest imaginable wheels on the car to give it a sense of presence. That is particularly challenging with an electric vehicle because, of course, efficiency is king. So you're often left with much smaller wheels. What they've done here, in order that the car doesn't, by comparison to other cars within the sector, look a little bit weak and small, is to massively emphasize that through the wheel arch. So although I don't particularly like the way that these colors are contrasting, what I do appreciate is that visually the car still has bulk on the road. But most important of all, we're still taking advantage of that efficiency with these smaller wheels. So from that aspect, I do enjoy it. Now again, I guess I'm going to have to say I'm not massively in love with this color contrasting. And as is always the case with piano black, you think, well, fingerprint and dirt magnet. And I have to tell you, when you push down on this, it doesn't feel like the most solid finish in the world. But that's a small minor detail. If you look at the way that the back's been tied together, from contrasting roof liner through down into the boot and then right at the base, there are lots of different levels, which I think in small car design are particularly important to give it a little bit more presence on the road. Let's take a look inside. Well, right from the get-go, I think we can immediately see that they have been raiding the 508's toolbox for a little bit of ideas and concept here. But these materials are much more fresh and youthful than we expect from that experience, as they should be. This is clearly a much younger car. Now, if all of this looks like it might be a little bit much for you, the bright stitching, the contrasting of materials here, let's take a closer look inside. First of all, I want to see how those seats work. They look very minimalistic, so I'm keen to know if they're actually comfortable to sit in. Well, the 208 was always a really comfortable driving experience, and I'm happy to say that this is no different at all. You will recognize immediately this steering wheel from the 508 setup. And if you are a fan of Peugeot's innovative digital infotainment application, well, you're going to be right at home here. I have to tell you, we have a floating digital display here. Now, that is a little disarming to say the least. You can actually see information overlaid on top of the digital display, the main cockpit digital display that's set right back deep into that dashboard. So when we look at, for example, the central infotainment screen, it looks a little bit plasticky, a little bit shiny on the piano black, but it's in keeping with the original design of this dashboard. Look at these instrument keys down here. Again, these look like a refreshed and updated take on its bigger brother, the 508, but they have the same interesting approach to functionality. Does all of that come at the cost of the rear seat experience? Let's take a look and find out. Well, okay, it's a small car. You're not going to expect it to be cavernous back here, but I have to tell you, it's actually reasonably comfortable. I think reasonably is the fair word to pick. Given that you're not usually going to be traveling with fully grown passengers in the back, the headrests are integrated into the seat design, so you actually have to wiggle them up a little bit to make them comfortable if you're going to sit back here, but I like the way they pop out of the way visually to allow you the maximum amount of rear view for when you're just driving without passengers. Leg space is actually pretty generous for a small car. I'm 5'10" or 178 centimeters, and as you can see, I've got plenty of room for my legs. Sadly, not quite so much for my head, but again, it is a small car, and I still think that's fairly reasonable. I could sit back here for a relatively moderate journey, let's say. The seats are nice and supportive, very comfortable and well designed. Might be a small car, but you're still going to need to transport things around in it. So do we have enough space back here to make that viable? Well, I think they've done quite a pleasing job, actually. There is a reasonable amount of room here, and you even have little additional areas of storage as well. Nice, sensible luggage strap to make sure you can keep your basic supplies permanently in here, and of course a 60-40 split on the rear seat for when you want to fit larger items. Well, you might not think that's the most exciting thing in the world, but when you consider how far electric cars have come on in really a very short space of time, one of the most impressive aspects of that is the fact that you're now able to have a boot of this size on a small car when it's fully electric, and that really is significant, because don't forget, you do have to make an awful lot of room for those batteries. Well, there's all kinds of cars and all kinds of manufacturers here in Geneva. The story is always about what's new, what's innovative, but more important than that, where the market is heading. What makes me so excited about this particular car is it really feels like a slice of what's to come. So, to start with, let's ignore the electric platform. I really like the refresh of this car. For smaller cars, for my taste and the market, I think the most important thing is to deliver fun in a small package, and this design really speaks to that. Some of the elements that you think, I don't know if that quite works, are what makes this car so distinctive. It really does stand out, even from a distance, and I think that's great. If it drives half as well as it looks, this is going to be a very serious proposition. But the story of the 208 really is the electric platform. Why? Well, we've all gotten used to the idea that the Nissan Leaf's around, it's kind of in its own category. The design was always a little challenging, a little different, but it's taken us a while to start to see other manufacturers bring to market the results of that first innovation. This really feels to me like it has the potential to be a mass market product. Now, of course, we're going to have to wait and see how successfully the infrastructure that it needs is added to various different countries to make it really viable to use one of these for longer trips. But for something that will work to pop in and out of work for you, to pick up the kids and just to have as a daily runabout, I think this represents the start of something very exciting indeed. And what excites me most is that the visual aesthetic of this car matches the idea in terms of excitement and freshness. So, I'm a big fan, but tell me, what do you think? If you have any comments or questions, pop them below. Please subscribe, and we hope we'll see you all again soon.